Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be talking about the Fujifilm XE4 versus the Fujifilm X100VI. Both of these cameras are amazing cameras and fun little cameras to use, but I'll be talking about my experiences using each of these cameras, and through my experiences you can figure out which camera you'd like to purchase if you are trying to purchase one or the other. So I'd start off talking about the X100VI, as this is the newer camera that I've purchased recently, and then I talk about the XE4. So I always wanted to purchase an X100 camera, the X100V to be particular, and at the time I was trying to purchase the X100V. The TikTok trends were in and it was really difficult to get your hands on one of those cameras. Also the prices were really high at the time, so that was partially one of the reasons why I went with the Fujifilm XE4. But as these last few months have passed by, I for some reason wanted to get my hands on an X100V, and then found that the X100VI was going for high prices as well, because the camera was out in February and I was too late in terms of doing the pre-orders, and then heard quite a few people were waiting in line. But here in the UK I was able to find a brand new unit on eBay for about £1,700. So I got my hands on one of these because I was going for a trip to Italy and Lake Como. So I purchased one of these at £1,700 on eBay, but I can see as of right now cameras aren't moving as easily as they used to. The prices of these are dropping, and you can find a brand new one on eBay for about £1,650 or maybe £1,630, that sort of thing. So if you're still interested in purchasing one of these, you can pretty much find them brand new on eBay for very close to MSRP prices now. My experiences with using this camera, I've taken about 1,000 or 2,000 shots on this camera, and I've really enjoyed using this camera as compared to the Fujifilm XE4. Some of the features I've enjoyed using are the optical viewfinder. So this little optical viewfinder has made a night and change difference in terms of my experience of taking photos on this camera. This is my first time using a camera with an optical viewfinder, and the experience is incredible, I would say. I haven't had a good experience using an electronic viewfinder on my previous cameras. Even the Fujifilm XE4, I haven't really enjoyed using the electronic viewfinder on it, so I usually used to stick with taking photographs through my screen. But even on bright days, bright sunny days, taking photographs on the optical viewfinder with the Fujifilm X100VI was a lot of fun. In my opinion, that's probably my favorite feature on this camera. The second thing I'd like to talk about is the ND filter. So there's a little button up here for ND filter. I was able to use this ND filter on bright sunny days on Lake Como, because there was quite a lot of reflection in from the lake, and there was quite a bit of glare from the sunshine as well. So I was able to use the ND filters, and I was able to take photographs at f2 or f4 and get really high quality photos, as compared to my Fujifilm XE4, where I didn't have an ND filter on them. So I would end up taking photographs on f12, f14, and the photographs wouldn't be as impactful, I would say, as compared to this one. Another feature I really liked about the Fujifilm X100VI is the flash. So there's a little flash up here, and if you take photographs on these, you can create a little film simulation which starts to give you a little digicam sort of flash effect, and these photos look very retro and a lot of fun. This was another feature that I really liked. So these were three features that I really enjoyed using the Fujifilm X100VI: the optical viewfinder, the flash, and the ND filter. Apart from that, I enjoyed using the ISO dial on the camera. So you have a little dial up here, and then you can change the ISO by just lifting this knob and then turn it around and then select your ISO. So I enjoyed using this because this feature wasn't there on the XE4. The full thing I liked on the X100VI, which I found a bit cumbersome on the XE4, was the feeling of holding the camera, because there's a little bit of a raised section here which made the camera feel better when you were to hold it. It gave you a bit of a grip, not as much, but a little bit, and it made holding the camera a lot more comfortable. These were the four features that I genuinely enjoyed using on the X100VI, which were not present on the XE4, and I'd like to talk about the XE4 now. So this is a camera, the Fujifilm XE4, that I've used for a couple of years now. I've taken a lot of photographs on it. I've genuinely enjoyed using this camera with different lenses. So I've used the 23mm lens on it. I've used the 35mm f2. I have used the 18mm f6.3, which is a pancake sort of lens. It's called a UFO lens, I believe. By putting this lens on the camera, it makes it feel as if you have a lens cap on it, and you don't feel like you have a little lens on there, which is pretty cool, I would say. It almost makes the camera pocketable in one of your pants pocket if you've got like a massive one. Let me show you what it looks like. When you put this lens on, it looks really thin. It literally looks like a little lens cap on the front of the camera, and I think, yeah, you can tell how thin it looks. So if you put the Fujifilm X100VI aside with the XE4, it is quite thin, I would say. It even maybe thinner than the X100VI. But the feature that I loved using about the XE4 was that you had removable lenses, so you could put the 18mm lens on, you could put the 35, which I just had on here, you could put the 23mm lens. I've even had a chance to use the 18-55, I believe, or the 16-55mm lens, and I used that on a trip, but it is a bit bulky on this camera because the camera is pretty small. But it is doable if you'd like to give that a shot. But yeah, I think the best feature on this camera is that you can change lenses, and this is something, if you are keen on doing, would sway you in the favor of getting an XE4 versus getting an X100VI. The second feature I loved about this camera was the size, and I thought that the camera, when you put this lens on, makes it a bit more smaller than the X100VI or the X100V. So this is something that you should have a look at, because sometimes you want to just take a small little camera with you and walk out the house without lugging it around, or maybe at night in unsafe places. So this is something that made a big difference in terms of taking this camera out. The third feature about this camera, which was genuinely nice, was the price. Funnily enough, the price on this camera for this body was about £750 used at the time when I purchased it. I think as of right now it's gone up to about 900 or whatever, because Fujifilm has stopped making this camera. And also, if you were to get a little lens like this, which costs about £50, or you could purchase one of these vintage lenses and get a little adapter, and it kind of goes on really well with this, and it could be a much cheaper option as compared to the Fujifilm X100VI. This camera, all in all, with this body, the accessories on here, and a little 35mm f2 lens, would run you up about £1,100, which is still a lot cheaper as compared to a Fujifilm X100V, which at the time was selling for £2,000 or £1,500, and the X100VI, which is still selling at £1,700. So you get most of the features from the X100VI, but you get a much cheaper package, which also gives you the option to change lenses on. Apart from that, I think the cameras pretty much do the same thing. On the X100VI, you have the latest sensor, the X-Trans 5, I believe, versus this one is the X-Trans 4. You have a couple more film simulations on this, which I haven't gotten around using, but pretty much you have most of the features on there. The other feature on the X100VI, which I forgot earlier to mention, was I think the sensor is 40 megapixels, while the XE4 is 16 megapixels. I did not really need to zoom into the pictures, and I did not care as much about the megapixel count, but some people, if they would like to print photographs or pixel peep and whatever, getting a camera with 40 megapixels might help. The file sizes are much bigger on this, so that in turn means that you need a better computer, to process your images, more storage for your files, and all of that jazz. I'd like to round up my experience by saying that the Fujifilm XE4 and the X100VI have been both fun cameras to use. I personally feel that the X100VI is priced quite high for what it can do. You get most of the features on the XE4. You get the optical viewfinder on the X100VI, which is the best feature in my opinion on this camera. You get the flash, you get the anti-filter, you get the 40 megapixel sensor on the inside. Apart from that, the camera just is a bit more smaller, looks more nicer, I would say. But yeah, in terms of the XE4, you get it for a much cheaper package. You can swap lenses, you can carry this along with like a 18mm lens, a small one. You could take a 35mm. You could even connect a 16 to 55mm massive lens, which makes the camera a lot bigger, but it is doable. And especially for professional work, when you want to change lenses and stuff like that, or if you are just learning photography when you're getting started, I think a camera like the Fujifilm XE4 would teach you a lot more as compared to the X100 cameras. The X100 cameras are more of a luxury sort of camera, where if you've got the money, go ahead and buy it. And also you need to make sure that the lens is something that you actually genuinely enjoy using. It's the 23mm sort of lens on here, but you also get the connectors to give you lenses with a bit more flexibility. So if that's something that you're interested, you could look into that, but you'd be looking at prices over £2,000 at the time. So all in all, to sum up, I would say the Fujifilm X-E4 has been a lot of fun to use. This is a camera that you should get if you are looking for a budget-friendly option, if you are looking for options to switch lenses, if you're looking at this camera as a daily camera, as a backup camera, as a B camera, whatever that may be. The Fujifilm X100VI, if you've got a lot of money, if you value the 40-megapixel sensor, if you value the optical viewfinder, if you want a flash, if you want an ND filter, those are sort of things that would sway you in the direction of buying one of these. An alternative would be purchasing a used X100V on eBay. As of right now, I believe they're selling for about £1,200 or £1,300, which would make a really good package. Some people sell them along with accessories that they purchased over the years, a couple of batteries and Pro Mist filters and whatever. So that's something that you may want to look at. Thank you so much for watching this YouTube video. I would love if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram. I post a lot of my photographs with these two cameras. So if you'd like to have a look and then judge for yourselves what the photographs look like, you could always have a look at my Instagram. If you have any questions on these two cameras in terms of purchasing decisions or questions or whatever, leave them down in my comments on my YouTube channel. If you have more questions or you want to have a chat with me, my DMs are always open on Instagram. Please send me a message and I'll try to get back to you and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much for watching and hope you have a nice day.